You knew something was wrong before you had a name for it. Not one moment. A pattern. One you kept finding reasons to explain away. You'd leave or plan to leave, and then something would shift. They'd say exactly what they used to say at the beginning, and you'd feel it again. That pull. The one nobody outside could understand. People around you started using a word. Toxic. They said it like it was the answer. It wasn't. Because what was keeping you there wasn't a character flaw. It was your own neurology. The cultural explanation for people who stay has two versions: low self-esteem or financial dependence. Both put the mechanism inside the victim. That's where they stop. They frame staying as a decision you made about yourself, about your own worth. That framing sounds like support. It lands like a second injury, because the mechanism isn't inside you, and where it actually sits changes everything. In 1997, Dr. Jennifer Freyd at the University of Oregon documented a deliberate attack sequence: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Not a defensive reaction, a sequence. One that gets more precise with every cycle. The perpetrator learns your specific guilt threshold, where you'll most likely back down. Dr. George Simon documented this behavioral refinement across hundreds of clinical cases. 3 researchers confirmed it together: Harsey, Zurbriggen, and Freyd. Published and on record. The label that ends up on these relationships is high conflict. Mutual escalation. Both sides have a point. Nobody's fully the problem. That label isn't a description of the relationship. It's the product of the sequence. DARVO worked. The frame it produced became the official story, and you've been living inside that story, arguing with a label that was engineered to stick. The deeper question isn't why the sequence exists, why recognition didn't produce distance, why leaving felt neurologically impossible. That answer starts somewhere unexpected. It starts with a slot machine. Casinos operate on an unpredictable reward schedule. The reward comes, just not when you expect it. The brain doesn't disengage from unpredictable rewards. It locks in deeper. It starts searching for the pattern underneath the chaos, trying to find the logic. That search doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like investment. Feeling like you care more than anyone else can understand. That's what it mimics. There's a clinical name for this schedule: variable ratio reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement in relationships runs on the exact same mechanic. Warmth followed by coldness. Affection followed by withdrawal. No predictable rhythm between them. The brain reads that the same way. Lock in. Stay. Keep searching. That's not a character trait. That's a documented neurological response. Researchers at the National Institute of Mental Health went further than behavioral observation. fMRI studies of people in cyclical abusive relationships produced a specific finding. The scans don't show emotional confusion. They show dopamine dysregulation, cortisol dysregulation, patterns that match addiction pathways. Structural ones. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't something you read about. You've lived it. Drop one word in the comments. Just one. You already know who this is about. Dopamine is the brain's reward signal. Cortisol is its threat signal. Stable relationships keep both in a predictable range. Cyclical abusive relationships hijack both. The abuse phase spikes cortisol. The body goes into sustained threat mode. Then the abuser withdraws the threat. Cortisol drops. Relief floods the system. That relief gets coded as reward. The brain doesn't ask where it came from. A reward that follows pain carries more neurological weight than one that simply arrives. That difference is documented. It's the entire engine of the cycle. Researchers connected to Harvard Medical School documented the opening phase separately. the early period, before the cycle started, the intense attention, the sense of being understood. That phase established something specific, a dopamine baseline, an artificially elevated one. Everything that followed got measured against it. When warmth was withdrawn, the brain read it as loss against that peak. Its return got read as the baseline being restored. Except it wasn't. The baseline shifted lower each time. The fall grew. The relief felt larger. Now here's the part that reframes everything that came before it. The reconciliation phase. When they came back. When it felt like the beginning again. That wasn't a break in the cycle. It was the cycle. It was the entire mechanism. Intermittent reward resets the dopamine baseline in real time. And the brain reads that reset as neurochemically identical to early romantic love. Not similar. Identical. Confirmed through Harvard Medical School publications. On record. The reconciliation felt like proof the relationship was real. Because neurologically, the brain couldn't tell the difference. You weren't choosing to return. You were receiving a reproducible neurochemical signal, one established in you specifically, through your own history with that person. The exit from a trauma bond isn't a decision. It's a detox. Documented recovery timelines run months, not weeks. During that period, the absence of the abuser produces measurable withdrawal symptoms. Published data. On record. A neurochemical deficit, not a dramatic description. That deficit pushes the brain back toward the one thing it learned to read as the solution. The thing that created the problem becomes the thing the brain reads as the cure. That's why willpower doesn't hold here. The architecture isn't in the will. No contact is a clinical recommendation, not an emotional ultimatum. It's about giving the brain chemistry time to rebuild pathways that were externally controlled. Pathways that were moved, deliberately, over time, by someone who learned how to move them. People who've come through this describe one specific moment they keep returning to, not the moment they left, the moment they stopped needing it to make sense. No closure, no final conversation that finally landed right. Just the recognition that the mechanism was never personal. The pattern doesn't require a special kind of victim. It requires a consistent architect. This whole video, every study, every scan, described someone in your life. Or it described you. Your baseline was moved. Telling the difference wasn't possible. You weren't confused. You were conditioned. If this just explained something you've been trying to name for years, you know what to do. The people who used this on you counted on you not knowing it had a name. Now you have the name, the mechanism, and the map. If nobody in your life warned you about this, this channel is the warning. Make sure the next one reaches you.